Vacations. What do you think about when someone says they're going on a vacation or when you are going on a vacation? If you were to ask me that question, I would say vacation is a time to rest, relax, take a break. Perhaps the vacation includes traveling somewhere new or somewhere that you enjoy. Now, for me, vacations, for some reason, this expectation of like, it's just gonna be this like very peaceful time where everything is just smooth sailing, right? I don't know. I feel like that's what a vacation is. And the thing with vacations is just because a vacation is happening doesn't mean that things will stop happening. Plans can get sidetracked. Arrangements can change. The weather gets in the way. There's so many things, right? And today I'm just hitting record and I'm going to tell you a story about my latest vacation and how that went and the lessons that I have learned since, how I managed to navigate what ended up becoming a stressful time, and how I'm doing today as I get back onto this podcasting thing. Hi, I am Raysa, a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and you are listening to Hello Trauma Brain, a podcast where I share my experiences living with complex PTSD. My hope is this podcast can help destigmatize mental health and provide support to anyone diagnosed with C-PTSD who thinks they might have it or has a loved one with this diagnosis. Quick reminder, I am not a licensed psychologist or mental health care professional, and this podcast is not meant to replace nor substitute the care of psychologists, other mental or medical health care professionals. If you think you might have complex PTSD or PTSD, please reach out to your primary care or mental health care provider. Any individuals and resources mentioned in this episode are not sponsoring Hello Trauma Brain. This episode may reference trauma or abuse, and listener discretion is advised. Remember, you can always pause or skip this episode at any time. And now, let's get back to the episode. Hello, dear survivors, and welcome to this episode of Hello Trauma Brain. Thank you for joining me today. If you are listening on YouTube, a gentle reminder to subscribe and hit the like button to let me know this episode was helpful. So I usually say quick check-in, but to be honest, the check-in is the episode. So I'm gonna give you a rundown of what my life has looked like in the past 2 weeks. Before I get started, I want to say thank you for sticking around. I realize that it's probably not the norm to just keep taking unscheduled weeks off. And, because I don't even know that they're happening, like you didn't get a heads up on the previous episode. But I appreciate you and your patience. And I hope that during this time you found either a restful break coming your way or some other content that has helped you navigate your week while I got back on track over here. And I want to address why I've been just taking the breaks when they come. Part of my recovery includes basically kind of fighting that impulse to just push through. If I made a commitment that, I have to do it now every week, doesn't matter what happens, I gotta record the thing, right? And just slowing it down and realizing that, life is not that simple. Things happen and sometimes the episode doesn't come out every week. And for me personally, part of my healing is allowing that to happen. If I can't get to the episode, it's okay. It's okay. Nobody's grading me on it. Nobody is keeping tabs on me. I am yet to receive a message from a disgruntled listener that's not happy. I mean, if you are unhappy, please, I welcome your feedback in a respectful way. It's not that I don't want to hear it, but I'm just, nobody's complaining to me about it. So something tells me that it's okay. And sometimes I know some of you reach out, and I know you fall behind. Like, I'm not expecting you to listen every week. And, part of me also thought, a few breaks here and there will give a chance to some of you that are catching up to do that. And yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, but please take your time. And this is not easy content to dive into. Take the time that you need. I mean, the podcast, I'm planning on having it for a bit, so it's not gonna go anywhere anytime soon, and it will be there ready for you. And here I am. Let me give you the picture. I am not standing. I am sitting on my. I basically use the chair from my keyboard, and I put it on my bedroom every week, and I sit here and I record in my bedroom, and it's a disaster. I mean, things are not looking great right now in my bedroom cleaning wise. Oh my gosh, I wish I truly do. If you are one of those people that always have your places looking spotless, my hat goes out to you. I so wish I was like that. I'm jealous in a good way. I'm not in a way where I'm mad at you or upset at you for being that organized. I jealous in the way of like, I really wish I had that in me. I do. And if you do, I'm happy for you, and I hope it makes your life easier. I have this, and maybe this is not even true, but for some reason I think that if I could get my place to look better, I would feel better. And I think that comes from the fact that when I do clean and I organize, especially if somebody's coming over, I do feel better. So I hope that's the case for those of you that have managed to keep your places looking tidy. And if you are listening to this and you are like me and you are surrounded by just tons of mess and clothes and laundry that is just been sitting there for forever, and it's just, I mean, at this point, I kind of have to like hop around items on the floor. Like this is where we're at, right? So if you are in that position, guess what, darlings? You are not alone. I'm creating my own obstacle course over here, apparently, in my own little apartment. Yeah, let's get to this story time. I feel like, gosh, I could talk for forever. And I for those of you that look forward to the monthly illustrations, the movie or song illustrations, I haven't forgotten about you. I do have some stuff I've been planning to record. And then, it kind of goes along with the, allowing things to just come as they do organically. Just things keep happening to me, and I feel like, as much as I thought, well, maybe I could release this episode that I'm recording today like a week later and just do the illustration in between. I don't know, that didn't feel like the right path for me. Like, in my body, how I feel it is like, I feel like people might find more helpful to hear what happened in the past 2 weeks and what I've learned. And that's probably going to be true for some of you and not for others, but for me, it just feels like the natural path. I kind of want to talk about this now, so I'm just going to do that. And if all goes as planned, next week we'll get an illustration episode, bearing that nothing else happens to me. Oh gosh, that's the thing about podcasting. Like, just life continues to happen, so it's like, I don't know. I guess a podcast about something like this, like living with whatever, like, when does it end, right? Like, I mean, I'm living with it every day. There's like new stuff coming every day. So let me set up the stage. I am at this point, a few weeks ago, I'm planning a getaway. Not very far. It's like a 2.5-ish hour drive to an Airbnb cabin in nature with a friend of mine that I've known virtually so far. So we met in an online group. We do phone calls. We text. We've developed a beautiful friendship, and we've tried now to get together. So this was our third attempt. And the first two attempts did not work out. So at this point, as of before this trip, we've had 2 times where we tried to meet in person, and just life happened and it didn't work out. We were kind of like the third is the charm. We have the place booked now. This is the closest we've gotten to getting together in person. Super excited to spend a weekend with my friend. She's excited for the weekend. Before I even arrived to this thing, the week preceding the trip, I had a flare up. I won't go into detail about it, but essentially I got rear-ended a few months ago, and I'm recovering from whiplash, and I had a flare-up days before my trip. So as you can already guess, that was a major trigger for me, because now I'm stressing about how some of my physical capacities are limited. So, and I need to pack, and I need to get the place, I gotta get myself ready. I'm traveling on my own, so I gotta drive there, and I'm following all the stuff that they're giving me in physical therapy. I'm doing all the exercises. They tell me to stay away from this. I do it. They tell me to do more of that. I'm gonna do it. I get myself. I start improving from the flare up. And by the time that I got to the cabin, the flare up had subsided quite a bit, but back to the point where I am as functional as I have been since the whiplash. But I make it there, okay? And I have to say, it was a really peaceful drive there. I get to the cabin, I love it. My friend gets there, she loves the cabin too. We're enjoying our company. The place is just nature, and for us trauma survivors, a big component of a lot of things that I hear survivors say, and this is true for me. Nature is just therapeutic. There's something about being in nature and seeing birds and seeing the trees and feeling the wind on your face, and just being in such a beautiful place that just gives, at least for me, that just gives my nervous system the little message of, you can breathe here. Just sigh. It's okay. We are exactly where we need to be. So we get in. The first night dinner, we found a really yummy place. Things are, we're just working together very well. Like this friend of mine and I, like, just our ways of going about the trip are, we're two agreeable people who've healed a lot of trauma, and it's just, we're compatible in that way. Like, there's no antagonism. There's nobody's taking over. Nobody's, setting their foot down and steamrolling the other person. It's just a lovely, lovely exchange so far. So we get to the next day, and the first thing that starts happening is my eating schedule when I travel kind of gets a little bit out of whack. And it kind of, my stomach started feeling it. So as opposed to doing what I usually do, which would be just do not let the other person know you're struggling with your stomach. Just don't say a word. Put up with it. We're not ruining their trip because of your stomach. Like, I actually said something. And happens that they had tablets I could use, and they actually worked like a charm. And now I'm feeling better. And we actually were doing a bit of a conflict conversation. It wasn't something that happened at the time. It was just I wanted to apologize to her for something that had happened initially. Like the first time, essentially, I kind of didn't communicate clearly about the logistics. That's how things ended up leading to me basically canceling our first attempt to get together. And she was telling me her experience of how that was for her. I'm telling her, what was happening on my end. I'm apologizing. We're doing the repair. We're doing all the stuff. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, boom! This loud thumb in the distance. Not too far. Close enough. The cabin shakes. Power goes out. We're looking at each other, and my mind goes to the worst case scenario immediately. Like, catastrophizing is my brain's jam. So immediately I go, the cars. So we run to one of the windows to see if the cars are okay. The cars are fine. We start exploring through the other windows to see what's happening before we go out there. And we see one of the power lines are down. It's like, okay, something happened over there. So we carefully go out to gauge the situation. There are some neighbors nearby. They're pretty close, but nobody's coming out yet. So I don't know if those people were there, if they were out, what was going on. So it's just her and I in this remote, this decently remote area. And we find the culprit, which was this enormous tree. Enormous tree. This sucker fell right by the property, knocks down a power line. That power line pulled the other lines, snapped the pole right next to the cabin where we're at. So the transformer, like that pole is like snapped. That's all on the floor. These power lines are on the ground. The tree is blocking the only way out of this place. The only way in and out is through this road. The tree is literally blocking from side to side. And I mean, I forget about the tree at this point. The power lines alone, we can't drive out of there. So we're like, okay, what do? We start calling the numbers. They can't really do much about it. We have to wait. And I have to say, I'm just glad this person was with me because she went on solution mode. Like, I have to say, if what something I learned about this person is she's a good person to have in a crisis. Like, she goes, her brain is very functional in that state. I try to stay as functional as I can. I will admit, I definitely was struggling a lot more than she was. Like, I started calling some of the people. She's creating the plan. Then we're both, on the phone with these people to make sure that, like, because at this point I'm kind of like not trusting that I'm gonna be okay on my own having the conversation. So she's helping me out. We're trying to figure out what's going on. We end up running into neighbors that are just coming back. So they were out when the tree fell, and actually it was a good thing because apparently where the tree fell, that's usually where they park their car. So had they been home, that car would have been done for. And they're kind of like giving us the rundown, like, oh, this happened last year. There is a place you can go nearby to get some food if you need some food. Kind of give us like the rundown, like, they should come out and like cut the tree at least today. And but they basically like tell us like, but just FYI, when this happened last time, we didn't have power for days. So at this point, my friend is like, okay, we definitely have to get out of here before it gets dark because it's gonna get dark fast. So like, okay, so we go and we decide to walk to this place where there's food. So we start walking, and at this point, usually, I'm an indoorsy person who's recently discovering the beautiful gifts of nature, and yes, I am that person that sprays herself with the bug spray and the sunscreen and all this stuff. And I'm just not great with bugs. I'm not great with just the living creatures that you can encounter out there. In the rush of just, we got to get something to eat before it starts getting dark. We're walking, right? Like, we don't want to be walking back in the dark and all that. I didn't spray anything. I just went for it. Just got clothes on to walk, change my shoes. Let's get walking. We get walking. We make it over there. And we eat, and it was a yummy meal. Again, I have to say the food was great that weekend. And I did notice when I was eating there, I was really itchy. My skin was itching like hell, and I couldn't figure like, because I had a newer shirt. So I was like, is it the shirt? Is there something on this fabric, like a chemical? I tend to have my skin is very sensitive, so like benzo, whatever, anything that has benzo, like any of those products, my skin blows up like the 4th of July. I'm just, my skin's just very sensitive. Like, if I scratch my skin, you'll see the red marks for a while. That's just the way my skin works. And I'm itching like hell. Put that aside for a moment, and there's a reason I'm pointing this out, I promise. We eat, we hang out, we get back. The tree has been sawed in half and moved so you could drive through the road, but these power lines are still everywhere. And we're not sure if they're live, if they're not. I could have sworn that one neighbor said they were going to kill them or they had already, but I wasn't sure. Like, quite frankly, I'm not going to be guinea pig with power lines, right? So at this point, we're updating the people that we need to update about what's happening. There's still no power out here. I start looking up. Like, how do you know if the power lines are live? Is it dangerous? Like, what do you do? And everything that I'm finding is just like, you get the heck away from them, you're gonna die. And it hits me all of a sudden. We cannot leave. And it's the weekend, and who knows if these people are not even gonna come tomorrow and we're stuck here till the week. And as that sense of impending doom starts coming down on me faster than an avalanche of snow, my friend comes back. She was outside scouting the situation brilliantly, I should say. She comes back and she tells me the lines are, I know for sure that the power lines are dead because I just saw people grab them and move them aside, and just a truck drove by. So we can get out. Let's pack up the cars and let's get out of here. And then once we're on the other side of these power lines, let's come up with a plan. So that worked brilliantly because at this point, once I was in the emotional flashback of impending doom, my brain was not really working for planning. But following, I can do. I put all the stuff in the bag. At this point, it's starting to get dark quick. So we're like just rushing out of there. We get the heck out. At this point, I did come useful again. Once we were on the other side and like the safety came back, I at that point took care of booking a hotel for us, and we get to the hotel, and because there's always more with this stuff, on the way there, my air pressure tire icon comes on the car, which usually is something that causes a lot of panic for me, especially the first time I ever saw it on my car years ago. Like, it was just like, I don't even know what that is. I'm like sitting on my phone looking up what it is, and I'm like, how do you fix it? How do you do it? Since then, I've learned there's free air pressure for tires out there in like pretty much any gas station you go to, at least in my area in the East Coast of the US. So, usually when that light comes on, I feel pretty panicky because I'm like, I feel the sense of urgency of like, if I don't stop and get this done right now, my tires are going to explode, right? And I have to say, though, I was so drained by the point that light came on. I was so done mentally that when I saw it, I was just like, I don't even give a shit now. I'm 10 minutes away from the hotel. I'm just going to get to the hotel. And tomorrow morning, we're dealing with this light. I don't have it in me. I didn't have it in me. And yes, I was very far, so if the tires would have blown up, it's a lot worse if you're 2 hours away than 10 minutes away from home. But honestly, I didn't have it in me. So got to the hotel. It was interesting. Like, when we get to the hotel, I had to move my car. And when I had to move the car, the light wasn't even on again. It was weird. But get to the hotel, get through the night. It's just not an ideal situation. Like, that was not the plan, right? We were not planning to spend most of our trip dealing with a crisis, but that's how it went. And I will say this again, and I can't say this enough. I'm so freaking grateful I was with the right person when this happened, because this could have gone a lot worse with the wrong person. This situation with a narcissistic, antagonistic, entitled of a human being would have gone horrendously. It would have been way stressful. And honestly, I'm just glad this person was there, because I'm not great at, I kind of adapt to the situation a little too much to my detriment. That's one lesson I learned from this trip. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. The moment the power went out and we realized we're stuck in the cabin, we were talking about, like, I guess we can have people deliver food to us here, like, to the stop sign or whatever, and just we can go walk and get it. And that honestly, like, was my extent of like, oh, that solves everything. Then we can still sleep here. It's going to be sucky to sleep at night in this cabin. And now there's, we don't have any power, but I guess we can do it. And it didn't even occur to me. It didn't occur to me that we could just leave early. In my brain, it was like, we already committed to the 2 nights. I guess we have to stay now. I don't know how that's going to work, or if we get some refund for the inconvenience. Like, it didn't occur to me that we could leave. It occurred to my friend that we could leave, and I'm so glad it occurred to her. Had I been there on my own, I would have probably stayed in that dark, cold cabin all night. How sad. And just to, I want to give Airbnb their due here. Once they stepped in within 2 days, not only did we get a refund for leaving early, they paid the difference of, the hotel was a little bit more expensive, so they compensated for the difference. I mean, they made it right immediately, and I'm happy with them. I wasn't too impressed with the company that did the hosting. It was a company. However, from the communications, a different person stepped in pretty quickly. So I think, given how everything at the end worked out, I'm pleased. I'm pleased to announce that I feel I feel like they've made up for it as much as possible. Obviously, like, who can control the winds being so wild that day that a tree got knocked out like that? I mean, nobody would choose that, right? Gosh, something that I learned from this trip, it was just it. I felt a lot of things. I felt so glad that I was with a safe person, and I had the experience of going through chaos and a bit of a crisis with someone who could handle it. Someone who, I mean, let me be clear. This was hard for both of us. I'm not saying this other person was completely unfazed. Like, I mean, it was a hard thing for both of us to go through together. But I feel like we also worked together to get us to navigate it as best as we could. Like, the moments where she was overwhelmed, I was stepping in, and vice versa. And yeah, it really taught me something about how important it is to have the right people there, especially for when things get tough. Because quite frankly, that's really what makes friendships and relationships grow. If everything is going perfect all the time and it's just like willy-nilly, like, how do you really get to know a person, right? Not fully. I don't know. I don't, yeah, I don't think fully. But I definitely learned a lot about this person. It reinforced how glad I am to have them in my life. And it was just such a bummer. I was so bummed out for both of us because we were so looking forward to this. And it just, a part of me, my heart was a little broken that it went that way. It's like, are you serious? Like, really? We, ah, you know? And it's just, it was just a bummer. Like, she had to leave earlier than expected the next day because, the hotel made her commute even longer. It was just like, there were those bummer times there. I was just like, man, like, I really, really wish we could have had things the way that we intended to. Like, I wish we would have been able to enjoy the cabin the entire time. It was a beautiful cabin. It's just such a shame. And I wish we would have spent, our time together, having a few laughs and just enjoying our company without having to go through all that stress. Because as much as having a safe person can help alleviate stress, stress is stress. Let's call it what it is. So that was not, that was stressful. And here's the thing. So I get back, she gets back. We both get safely to our destinations, which is good. I take a walk. I'm trying to, like, get myself back in track as best as I can before I start another week. 2 days in, I notice I have these bug bites. I don't know what type of bites they are. They look weird. They kind of look like, honestly, initially they look like mosquito bites. That's what they look like to me. It's like, this looks like a really inflamed, very itchy mosquito bite. What is this? That I noticed, and this is the other thing, I noticed these bites right as I am starting my 6 a.m. Tuesday RRP group. Yes, my RRP group is at 6 in the morning, and it hurts like hell to wake up early to do it. I'm not gonna lie, I am not an early bird at all. So I already go into those pretty doozy at the beginning, but now I have these bites, and I am freaking the F out. Remember when I said that me and bugs don't go very well? Well, yeah, me and bugs don't go very well. Immediately, I go to the worst. Did I bring something with me? Is there something now in my apartment? What the hell bit me? Am I having a reaction? Am I gonna be okay? Should I be going somewhere? I am going through all these questions. The entire hour and a half we're in group. I barely talked that day. I was just dysregulated as it comes. And essentially what I did was just like, okay, I have some cortisone cream. I slapped some on and I went to work, and I just kept slapping it on all day long. And I got through the first day. The bites seemed to still be there. It didn't seem to get worse at first. And here's the thing. Honestly, me and gradual changes don't mix. I don't notice them. It's very easy for them to get overlooked by me. It's just the way my brain works. I am a lot better going from 0 to 100, then gradually from 0 to 100. That's just the way it works. So I go through my week. The person that I actually, the friend that I met up with in this trip, they're going through some stuff too now too, and it just feels like my brain is just like, what the heck is happening like right now, and I get to the end of the week, Friday night, and all of a sudden I notice that these bites are itchier than ever, just itchy as f, blown up, and they're starting to blister. So I'm like looking at these things, and they're like, just to give you some placement, like they're in my hands, like in my wrist and my hands. So I can see them all the time, like they wouldn't have gone overlooked. So then I'm like trying to like, oh, that's right. I remember back when I was itching like hell, when I was in my trip, and I'm like looking, so I was itching at my shoulder area. So I'm like looking at my shoulder, I got no bites there. So then I'm like, are these new bites? I don't know if these are new bites. And I'm trying to figure out, because I didn't really count how many bites I had. So I'm thinking, is there something else or whatever it is still here, or now it's here. Maybe I brought it from over there and it's biting me all the time now, or biting me more. I don't know. All I know is I'm freaking the out. I'm freaking the out. And the next day, and now we're looking at a Saturday. So my primary doctor's office is closed till the next week. Now these bites are hurting like hell the next day. And I mean painful. Like I'm trying to wash my hands and it hurts to touch them. So I'm like, okay, this is getting worse. Like they're bigger, they're hurting, they itch like hell. I don't know what to do. That day I happened to have this interview scheduled. Not just any interview. It's my first interview for another podcast, talking about what I do here in this podcast and healing from complex PTSD and narcissistic abuse. I've done interviews before for singing and promoting other things, but just not about my personal mental health and life like this. And I'm like, can I do the interview? It's like, am I being safe to myself, just pushing through this interview instead of running to an ER right now? Like what should I do? And I thought about like I started drafting an email saying like I need to reschedule, and then I thought, hold it. I'm like an hour from a little bit over an hour from the interview, and it kind of like hit me for a moment. Like, I mean, I'm technically like still okay. I feel panicky. I am, and I can go to an urgent care. I don't have to wait till Monday. But at this point, I don't think an hour is going to make a difference between whatever the heck they're going to do for me or not. So I thought, let me do the interview. And I did. When the interview is ready, I will share the podcast, all the information so you can check it out. I don't think it's going to come up for another few weeks. So it'll be some time. But I will say, though, I am very glad I did the interview. I had a lovely conversation with this podcast host, also survivor and therapist, and I cannot wait for you to hear that conversation. I quite frankly can't wait to hear it myself. I want to hear it back, but that's one lesson I've learned, that when you do somebody else's podcast, you don't have access to the file because you didn't record it. LOL. But now going back, I finished the interview. I go to the urgent care. They couldn't tell me what bit me. It didn't. What I did hear was, it doesn't look like a tick. It doesn't look like Lyme, but we're gonna give you all the stuff that we would just give to anyone. Just to, basically, the treatment plan was, we're gonna treat you like you have everything, in hopes that it takes care of anything. So I got on prednisone, which is a steroid, and I also got on antibiotics. And I have to say, these bites are weird, y'all. These bites get better about like 6 hours in after taking the antibiotics, and about like the next, when the next dose is like coming up, they start coming back. Like it's just been, I'm used to things progressing forward. This back and forth every day, I see them get better, worse, better, worse, better, worse. And granted, it's still going down. They look better. I think they're healing. I mean, it looks like they're healing. But as I stand here today, I I've been bit now 2 weeks ago, approximately, and you can still see them. They're still here. They kind of look bruisey. Some of them look like kind of bruises on my skin. This is weird. I don't know what bit me, but whoever you are and wherever you are, I'm really angry at you right now. I'm really angry at you. Please don't do that to another human being or creature or anybody. It sucks. It's not fun. So something I have learned is, and again, it goes back to the gradual thing, right? With the medications, some of the side effects were pretty intense immediately, and those I noticed. But there was a particular side effect I didn't notice for days, or I didn't. Well, let me say that differently. I noticed it. I just didn't notice it was a side effect of the medication. I just thought something was going on with me. Any trauma survivors out there relate to the "is it me? It's just what's wrong with me?" question. This particular side effect, out of the many that I have been experiencing this week, but the one that I want to focus on today for a moment here, has to do with my ADHD symptoms. With my C-PTSD, I get a lot of ADHD presentation. Like my C-PTSD has an ADHD component to it, at least how it presents in me. And one thing I noticed was how hard it was to focus this week. And I mean more than usual. This girl has a tough time focusing and being productive and like honing on something sometimes. I mean, I can hyper focus in pockets of time in certain things or with certain things, and then I can't focus to save my life on other things. This week, it felt impossible. Honestly, it felt absolutely impossible to focus on anything. I couldn't believe how unfocused I was. And for a long time, I was just like, what the F is going on? Why can't I focus? Why does it feel harder to spend 10 minutes doing this? I don't get this. And quite frankly, looking back now, because at the time I didn't realize what was going on, I'm kind of glad I took that break from podcasting, because last week's episode would have been a hot mess had I recorded it under that brain state. And it took me till this Friday, and we're talking almost a week in taking the meds, when it finally hit me like, oh, I wonder if these meds are impacting my brain and my ADHD. And lo and behold, guess what I found online when I looked up how prednisone can affect ADHD? Ha ha. Yeah, that's what's happening. So this point in time today, I'm almost done. It's getting titrated off, which is I learned what titrating is recently, and not to an extent where I can write a dissertation, but if I gather correctly, what it means is to kind of like taper it off. So I started with like 3 a day, then 2 a day. Now I'm down to 1 a day. So I definitely feel my brain's coming back, even though I'm still taking this medication. But it's a huge difference, y'all. Oh my gosh. Wow. What a wake up call. And it's just like, I find it interesting that I'm just so glad to have my little humble traumatized brain back, as not perfect as it is, because I still struggle with focusing. It just feels good to have back like the baseline for concentration, because man, if I had to navigate my days how I did last week, oh my gosh, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know. I probably would need medication for the ADHD. That's what I think. I would definitely need a lot of support. Not to say that I don't need any medication or that I am against medication, because I'm not. But I can manage normally. I mean, it's there. But this past week, oh my gosh, to have a medication aggravated. Whew. Wow. So yeah, that's the story. That's what happened. It's just been a slow burn, because the trip became stressful, came back, and these bites aggravated the stress, and then the medication, It's just adding all these side effects. And I mean, I was just, my body and my brain have been off. And I'm, I'm just landing. I'm just getting to a place now where like, okay, I don't feel the impending sense of doom. I don't feel like my life is ending. I don't feel like my place has been compromised by the secret bug that's out there, like, to get me. or bugs, I just, yeah, I'm landing back at a place of, I'll call it comfort. I learned quite a bit during these past 2 weeks. I learned that vacations sometimes are not just peaceful. I mean, things can go wrong. And how important it is to have someone there, if you're going to do it, with someone that can handle changes like that. I learned to advocate for myself better, to not just make a situation work, but to, also consider other ways of getting out of it. Like, I didn't quite appreciate how important that is until this past week. And I'll tell you what, I also learned that I have a lot of healing to do still. Like, it's really weird to see my brain regress back to the old ways of thinking. With all the healing that I've done, it's a humbling experience to just go like, wow, my brain was willing to stay in a dark, cold cabin, huh? It didn't even think about, how do I get out of here? I'm just, yeah, I'm still reflecting. I'm still taking it in. And I thought to share that here, for any of you. This episode, I feel like this episode is a lot of things, but if it can be one thing, hopefully this gives you an idea of what it feels like to go on vacation when you have C-PTSD. Like, this is the ditty right here, as you just heard and experienced with me. And yeah, I guess that's all I have for now. In this week's healing invitation, I'm gonna present it differently. I'm gonna give you a bonus story, something that just happened today. So I'm trying to combat some of my isolation and tendency to just, be home. And granted, I do have a lot of stuff to get done at home. Like, it's not, I don't necessarily stay home, just because I don't want to be out there. Like, often I'm just catching up on stuff and I have to be here to do it. But I decided to do something today that I haven't done in a while, which is go to a coffee shop and get breakfast out. I do enjoy cooking. I really do. And I do enjoy making my brunches and everything. But I had, essentially, I had a gig last night and I got home really late. And I decided when I got home last night, it was like 12. I got home at like 12:30 in the morning. I don't know. It was very impromptu. Just something just told me I don't feel like waking up tomorrow and cooking a brunch and cleaning all the dishes and then cooking dinner again. I just, you know what? I feel like just having someone give me a plate of food with yummy breakfast food that I didn't have to make and have them do the dishes and have them make me a delicious cup of coffee. So I woke up and I drove to one of my go-to places that I have not been to for actually quite a few months. And I got there. It was pretty packed. I mean, it was a really, I'm still recording this today. So it's a really sunny, beautiful day out. So everybody's out. And I ended up in the bar area for this breakfast place. And lo and behold, completely unplanned. Like, I brought my book. I wasn't planning on meeting anybody. But somebody sits next to me and they're on their own too. And, we're doing our own separate things. And, before we know it, we strike conversation casually. And let me tell you, it still baffles me how survivors, we find each other we just do. If you're a survivor, I don't know if this is your experience since you started healing. It definitely has been mine. There's something that it's incredible. It's like a magnet. Like we just find each other in the room. And I struck conversation with this lovely person who turns out to be a survivor. And we ended up hanging out for a while. We like went out for a walk after we ate, and we connected, and it was just a lovely interaction. And I'm sitting here, and I know in the past, sometimes when I get excited about meeting someone, I all these big expectations come, and I think like, oh my gosh, I got a new friend, and then like they don't text me back ever, and then nothing happens, right? And I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't know if this person and I will continue connecting. I hope we do. I really do. But quite frankly, that used to be what I would worry about. Like, can I get them to, continue talking to me? And today I'm just like, I'm just gonna relish on the beautiful experience I had of going to eat, which was a really lovely meal, a really delicious coffee. And I just had a beautiful conversation. And I got to meet someone new who at this point, this person sounds to me like they didn't just survive what happened to them. They're thriving. Just hearing them talk about their life now, like their spouse, their kids, their pets, they just sound happy. They sound happy and they sound like they're in a good place. And it was inspiring to me to see that. And it gives me hope. Like I can get there. I can get there. It was lovely to also get reminded of the fact that I can make new friends. I can make those connections. And with this little story, I want to premise my healing invitation to you this week, especially if you have been isolating. Are you able to try going somewhere this week? And it can be a coffee shop. It can be out in the park if the weather is nice where you are. And see if you can make a connection. It doesn't have to become someone you talk to every day. Honestly, you can even start smaller than that. Just being in the coffee shop, just looking at people, just taking in other interactions. And maybe someone sits next to you who's also on their own, and maybe you do strike a conversation. And if it happens, I hope you have a lovely experience. And if it's not a lovely experience, you can always walk away. But yeah, I'm just so glad I took that risk. I'm so glad I got out of my little mini box in my apartment and just went out for breakfast this morning, because I wouldn't have met that person had I not done that. If you don't meet anybody, if no conversation gets struck, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. I think taking that step to go there and show up is good enough. Please let me know how this week's healing invitation goes if you choose to accept it. Before we wrap up this episode, all music and production is courtesy of yours truly. Also, I want to share a few ways you can help support this podcast. You can subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or the platform you are using to listen. Share this episode with anyone you can think can benefit from this content. Follow Hello Trauma Brain on Instagram with the handle @HelloTraumaBrain. Subscribe to the Hello Trauma Brain YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when I post a new episode. And you can make a donation by getting me a coffee through the official bio site. No worries, all links will be provided in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. I wish you the best as you navigate life's bites, and also as you begin getting out of your comfort zone to create new connections. It is time for our farewell affirmations. You are welcome to repeat after me. I am enough. I am lovable. and I deserve to heal. I wish you a gentle week, and thank you for listening.